I know I haven't uploaded on the second channel a lot recently, but there's something that's really pissed me off. And of course you guys know by the title what this is about. This is about the takeover for Newcastle United. It's been withdrawn, and you know what? I'll say this right now, and I'll say it completely explicit and out in the open. Fuck the Premier League. Seriously, just fuck off, right? Because you seriously pissed me off. Like, I'm not even a Newcastle fan. You can see by my shirt. You know what? You know why I wore this shirt today? Because I would rather put this on, my childhood club, than I would wear anything that Mike Ashley owns. I would rather wear this, my hometown club, than wear anything that Mike Ashley owns. Right? Because this is absolutely pathetic, right? So, do you know what the weird thing is, though? In this situation, I don't blame Mike Ashley. He's done the right thing. He said he wants to let go, he accepted the bid, everything was going ahead. It's the Premier League that I'm pissed off about this time. It's the fucking Premier League. Because from the get-go, they've stalled on this. You know what's basically happened? Basically, they've stalled this, they've sat on their arses, they've done nothing, and they've just withdrawn. They lost patience and they walked out after 17 weeks. And to be honest, if I was the PCP, I would not be surprised. Because if you're getting sat on your arse for 17 weeks doing nothing, you'd get bored and you'd walk out. And the Premier League, it just pisses me off that the Premier League once again have thought about themselves rather than letting a good club be just as better with a better owner. Because Mike Ashley, on all accounts, has done the right thing. He's accepted the bid. He's pushed it ahead. He wants to sell the club. The PCP were interested. It's the fucking Premier League that have just sat on their arse and done nothing. This whole, it was like a whole choice for choice from what I hear from reports. Like, something will affect this relationship with beIN Sports and Qatar if you let this happen and things like that. And it was something to do with the fit and proper persons test. We speak all the time about the EFL's fit and proper persons test with Bolton, with Bury, with Blackpool, with Leyton Orient, with Macclesfield, with Wigan now, with Wigan as well. We speak all the time about that fit and proper persons test and we're like, well, that's shit, that's shit, that's shit. The Premier League's fit and proper persons test sometimes is even worse. And this is a prime example. The fact that they can't allow something that isn't in Newcastle's fault affect them from being a better club. Because let's face it now, no one's going to take over. Mike Ashley will still run the club, even though he doesn't want to. He accepts the bid, he doesn't want to own it anymore. And Newcastle, some people think Newcastle will get relegated. And you know what? If Newcastle get relegated next season, the Premier League have got themselves to blame because they let that happen. So I'm going to read you a report from BBC Sport about fans' frustration, some of the facts from this withdrawal, and just basically share with you guys what the hell's been going on. So, let's have a look at this BBC Sport article then. So, from BBC Sport, basically, Newcastle fans say they're confused and heartbroken following the collapse of the Saudi Arabian-backed takeover. A consortium led by the country's public investment fund, the PIF, agreed a £300 million deal to buy the club from Mike Ashley in April, but has now been pulled out. So Greg Tomlinson from the Newcastle Supporters Trust said answers are needed from the Premier League, and I'll get onto that in a bit because I'm still pissed off with the league. Supporter Michelle George says it's left fans devastated. The deal was delayed after being scrutinised under the Premier League's owners and directors test, and I'll get onto that more in a bit because I've got some serious questions about that test. The consortium, which also included PCP Capital Partners and the Reuben brothers, have pulled out because it's understood the PIF ran out of patience. Big question there. Why? Oh, because the Premier League have sat on their arse and done jack shit. Magpie supporter George said as fans we're heartbroken. It sounds dramatic, but we've suffered for 13 years under Ashley through a lack of interest and investment in the club. So the fact that it's played out how it did and for the length of time it did, and then for the news to break and we still don't have the full picture, it's left fans devastated. So legal documents were handed over to the Premier League 16 weeks ago, but the bid has been dodged by claims regarding Saudi Arabia's human rights record and its handling of TV piracy. The delays to the process came because the Premier League lawyers struggled to establish precise links between the consortium and the Saudi government. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is also the PIF's chairman. Despite the ownership complications, a survey of Newcastle United Supporters Trust members found that 97% of them were in favour of the takeover, with many wanting rid of Mike Ashley. So Tomlinson said from the Newcastle Supporters Trust went on to say everyone was excited about the bid and the potential investment in the city, so it represents a missed opportunity for Newcastle and the North East as a region. We're left confused about what's been going on here. It's been almost 17 weeks of noise. The test didn't allow Premier League Chief Executive Richard Masters to take into account moral issues, which he or the people around him thought were important. Everyone was thinking we could be the next Man City, said Michelle George, although caveated by what's come to light now, that nothing really good happens with Newcastle. So as for the future, both Tomlinson and George from the Newcastle Supporters Trust and the fans are hopeful, so long as the future doesn't involve Mike Ashley. So American businessman Henry Maurice is understood to be keen to buy the club for $350 million. Tomlin says he is sceptical about that deal, but added, "I now hope we can find someone who's willing to buy the club and pass relevant tests and take us forward in a proper manner. There's no future for Newcastle under the current owner." So, basically, BBC Sport editor Dan Roan, in terms of an analysis on the article, said arguably the most controversial takeover in Premier League history is finally over. Sources close to the consortium say they tried to prove that the Premier League, the Saudi government would have no say in the day-to-day running of the club, and the Premier League seems to have been concerned that individuals not on the club's new board would have had influence over decision-making at St James's Park because the Saudi prince is the chair of the PIF. Given the Saudis have been forced to deny allegations they facilitated TV rights piracy after complaints from the Premier League themselves, this took an even greater importance, and ultimately this issue could not be resolved. Now, it's understood that Mike Ashley has tried to renegotiate the deal in recent days because of the length of the time that it's lapsed, and that also contributed to the decision by the group to walk away. Jesus Christ. But with so many negative headlines over Saudi Arabia's poor human rights record, Premier League officials may be privately relieved the consortium has taken the decision out of its hands. After months of uncertainty, however, Newcastle fans desperate to see the back of Ashley will no doubt see it very differently. So basically, the Premier League are an absolute bunch of pricks. Basically, that's the bottom line, because they've just sat on their arses and done nothing. I get why there's concerns about this piracy rights and all this shit, but I still don't get, with the money they've got, with the enthusiasm they have for wanting to be owners of Newcastle, I don't get why Man City's owners that are from the same country with pretty much the same bank balance would pass the test and Newcastle United would fail the test. And I've got a theory as to why. It is because the Premier League do not want another club with a big balance. The Premier League probably want the big four, including Tottenham and Man City, to be your big clubs, and they want every other club to suffer, and for the top six to be like the example. And even some of the top six have ownership issues. Man U have already complained about the Glazers not spending enough in recent years. Arsenal have always complained about Kroenke not spending in recent years. But compare that to Newcastle, you've got a completely different issue. And like I said, Richard Masters of the Premier League, he should be ashamed of himself, because the Premier League did not want this to go through because of some, rumoured reports of, TV piracy and all this human rights nonsense. I don't get the Premier League's thought process, and it seems like, once again, the fans have been left to one side because I don't get it. I literally do not get it. The fans have been left to one side, and they've been completely left out of the picture. They didn't take into account what was best to the club and what was best for the fans. That Saudi consortium was the best thing that could have happened. Yes, the American businessman, this Henry guy, has like an extra £50 million wanting to buy the club. If he gets rejected, what's going to happen to Newcastle now? I don't know. But just the Premier League need to just fuck off. I'm really getting pissed off, to be honest, because I just can't deal with the shit Premier League that we've got. You know, and I want to mention something that was mentioned back in Euro 2016 when England was knocked out by Iceland. We hype up our own league, when in reality, it's not the best league in the world. And you know what? In terms of running the league, I'd agree with that statement from a few years ago. Even now, from a few years ago, I would agree with that statement. The league is not the best in the world. It is not the best in the world. I've seen lower leagues with more passion and more community feel and more inclusion with the fans than I do with the top divisions. It's pathetic, to be honest. So what's the future hold now? What's the future hold now? Well, if that American guy gets rejected, I could see Newcastle potentially getting relegated. I could see the off-field problems this summer dominating the headlines, dominating the play, and I could see Steve Bruce getting sacked at some point if they go on a really bad run. I could see someone like the assistant manager taking over until the end of the season, or I could see some unknown, unexperienced manager taking over and dragging Newcastle down even further. Someone tries to come in at the last few months and save it, but unfortunately it'll be too late and Newcastle get relegated. And it's just not good enough. The Premier League say they want to do what's best for the clubs. Well, this is coming from a league where the chief executive ordered the clubs to give them a £250,000 bonus. As a bonus, you know, on top of the few million he already, you know, earns, rather than donating that money to help lower clubs with ownership issues. And I've said this a million times, football is a business now. It's not a sport, it's a business. And I don't know why we let it become a business in the way that it has. It's just an excuse to make a bit of bob out of it. And you know what's going to happen now. Sports Direct SC is going to keep going down the drain. They're probably going to get relegated next season, in my opinion. And I'll probably do a video predicting the table anyway, but I just can't be arsed, to be honest. I really, really can't be arsed. So, you know, Mike Ashley did the right thing by accepting the bid and trying to push this deal through, but in the end, the Premier League just did nothing because they don't want this deal to go through. You know, it said it on the article. The Premier League are probably happy that this deal didn't go through. They're probably happy. And you know what? I send that middle finger to the Premier League. Fuck you. Because you don't deserve happiness. Honestly, we need a complete reshuffle of this league. We need a complete reshuffle in ownership of this league. Someone who actually cares for the sport and not the business. Because if we've got businessmen in charge of the league, then it'll just become a sponsorship league and nothing more. I mean, you know what's going to happen next season. VAR's going to create more problems because they'll still have referees in charge of it and not proper people that at the Premier League that actually see the problem. It'll be referees just trying to, you know, make the VAR the main referee and stuff like that and trying to push, you know, on-pitch referees out the door. We've got all those problems. We've got more ownership problems. We've got technology problems. This league needs to learn from other leagues about so many different things, and I can't be arsed with it anymore. So I guess we just see what happens, really. I hope this American guy comes in and takes over and passes this under par, satisfactory person's test, because if I was him, I'd be taking over as much as possible. I'd be getting this done as much as possible so the Premier League don't get an input in what happens, because if the Premier League get one sniff of this, they'll say nope, Mike Ashley is a businessman, he's great at business, you know, he's the perfect businessman, so he's perfect for our league. You need people that care for the club, not some fucking businessman from God knows where land. I'm done. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to put out some more content. Not just football, but I'm going to put out some more content. But thank you very much, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm done. I don't want to say anymore. I'm fucking done.